Yeah, so I'm very happy that Joseph. Well, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Garay.
Garay.
Garay. Okay. That you're presenting today. So in the last few years, I've seen a series of papers come by, and what it seems to do is something that I would think is very helpful, and that is rather than discussing about Hamilton's rule and the phenotypic gambit and blah blah blah, if you think about selection between related individuals, why just not go down to the nitty-gritty and define dynamics at the gene level? And that's exactly what you have been doing. And so I'm looking forward to see you present this to all of us in the leg community. So yeah, I'm gladly giving the floor to you.
Thank you very much for the introduction. First of all, I'm a biologist, a pure biologist, but I have some connection with mathematician because I have some lecture in math when I was in the university. So today I will speak about evolutionary stable genotype distribution and genotype dynamics, and we will apply. Will show some application in the familial selection situation. First of all, I would like to start a famous Hungarian mathematician, and he emphasized that the main point is the question. The question is more important than the answer. So in my talk, the aim of my talk, you understand my question, but the question is tricky things because there are two types of questions. The first is a verbal. The other one is a well-defined question is, of course, we use math. Okay. What is the motivation of my
Sorry,
talk?
are we seeing the slides move? I don't see the slides move. Is this my fault or is the
Can you see?
I
We
see the
do,
title slide.
we do see your slide, but if you click down right, then you can make them large and you can
Let's see. My son will help because he.
F5, F5.
Now is okay.
Probléma.
Nem látják nem tudok lépkelni, mindig ezt látják.
Ezt látják.
Igen, mert ezt kéne látni.
Szerintem az F5. Szóval, hogyha abba adjátok a screen sharinget,
Jó.
share screen, amikor a fő slide-ot látjátok, és utána F5.
Ja, megvan mi a baj. Megvan mi a baj.
Jó napot! Én is egy picit
We can do this in Hungarian.
Most az egész screen
Nagyon jó van.
látják.
You can see the second light?
Yes, thank you.
Very good.
Perfect.
Thanks so much.
Okay.
Okay. It's okay?
Igen, jó.
Okay.
Ha csak annyi, hogyha érdekel, akkor ha ezt megnyomod, látod, amit ők látnak.
Aha, okay.
Nyíld. Tehát ezen tudod csekkolni.
Okay. Thank you. So, the most important thing is the question. I think I'm always interested in the question. This is my work, make a well-defined mathematical question. This is my work, if you want. And, Laci, most hogy tudok lépni? Okay, what is my motivation? If somebody comes to my flat from the street and asks my kidney, because without my kidney he will die, what I will say? Sorry, I use both of them. But if my son or if my full tube need my kidney, after that I will go to the doctor and will ask about what is my future with only one kidney. Why? So sorry. No. So the self-sacrificing behavior in the human family exists. There are lots of examples for that. In the literature of the evolution biology, there are 4 ways to modeling the altruism in family. The first one, the older one, is a kin selection. What is the kin selection exactly? The standard definition is when the nearest relatives interact. In this sentence, because the nearest relatives, of course, this is a full SIB, interact implicit in this question. There are the game theory as well, because the interaction usually we model it by game theory. The other is the group selection, is an asexual model. And now I will speak about diploid population genetics. So I will, and we will concentrate in the Mendelian population. To understand exactly what is the basic idea of the kin selection, we have only 2 individuals. There is an altruistic interact between them. And if you want, this is a one-person game. Why? Because one SIB is in a death threat, and the other, this guy has no strategy. The other has a strategy, help or does not help. So in this sense, this is a one-person game formally. What is the Hamilton rule? Is a very famous, I'm not sure everybody know or not. I have to mention about a little bit. What is the degree of relateness? This is a probability if pick up one gene from the green individual. What is the probability the same gene that is in the other individual? This is the definition of degree of relatedness. And of course, the cost is for the helper and the benefit for the receiver. What is the basic idea of the kin selection? From game theoretical point of view, the aim function of the kin selection is the number of my gene in the next generation. What does it mean? Of course, a little bit is not exactly right sentence, but this is the intuition behind the kin selection. There is an indirect effect, because if an individual having the altruistic gene promote the survival its full sibling or the other individual, who also carries the same altruistic gene, in this case will be good from the point of view, evolutionary point of view. What is the main idea of group selection? The group selection is concentrate on the advantage of the group living. For example, if my survival depend on my group survival, after that, I will be happy if my group is hard and we have lots of people and so on. What is the basic structure? What is the selection situation in the group selection? We have at least 2 groups. There is a game within the group. This game is usually well mixed, and the similar game takes place the other group, and between the 2 groups there are fights. This is in this case again, roughly speaking, in this case the aim function is the welfare of my group. This is the basic idea. Sorry, but I have to speak about the Mendelian population and the Mendelian inheritance. I guess everybody learned this in the secondary school, but because I will use lots of time some terminus technicus, so I have to shortly remember you. for the simplicity, we have two alleles. We are diploid population. What does it mean? One genes come from my mother, other gene of mine come from my father. If you have two alleles, in this case, we have three genotypes, two homozygotes, and the heterozygotes. The gametes are haploid, and the genotype are diploid. What does it mean, the Mendelian inheritance? We consider also autosomal locus, and there are the symmetry, because in my strategy, in my phenotypes, from my phenotypes is independently which allele comes from my mother or my father. This is a symmetric condition of Mendelism. And the other is the random separation of allele. So in this case, we have 6 type of family. When in this family, the father, for example, capital A, homozygotes, and the mother has only also homozygotes and only has a small allele A. In this case, all of offspring are the same genotype. But what's happened if at least one parent heterozygote? For example, here we have heterozygotes and we have a homozygote parents, and in the family there will be two type of offspring only, and this is a random process. So when one offspring burn, is randomly pick up which type of offspring will burn according to the binomial distribution. Here, when both parents are heterozygotes, after that all type of homozygotes occur, and the ratio is according to the Mendelian inheritance. Why this is important? Because we have in the Mendelism, we have genotype-phenotype mapping, and we say A is dominant over A, or the capital A is dominant over small a, if these two genotypes have the same phenotypes. This is a classification. The genotype-phenotype mapping is a classification on the genotypes. And why I will speak only population genetics, because I follow the basic tenet of the population genetics, namely, each individual's behavior is fixed by Mendelian inheritance. What does it mean? The individual has no free strategy. The individual strategy genetically fixed. He doesn't change my mind. What my genes absolutely determine my behavior. Why interesting the phenotype-genotype map? For example, if we see this family when both parents are heterozygotes, according to the capital A is dominant in this case, and the capital A is determined, for example, the selfish behavior. In this case, this family, the overwhelming majority of the offspring will be selfish, because this guy selfish. But if capital A is altruistic or cooperator, in this case, change everything. So the group composition, the family composition is determined by the genotype-phenotype map. This is a why this is important. Now we arrive the first question. This question is not mine. Holden 100 years ago asked introduced the following selection regime: familial selection. What does it mean? In his text, he considered where the size of the family is strictly limited by the food. If there is no food enough, after that the full sheep will fight for the food. So it's a 100 years old question. If you see into the literature, there was some try or some paper, not too much, but is not solved. So contrary to Harding, we will concentrate on the altruistic help between siblings. Now, what is the motives of problem? This problem is connected both the kin selection and also the group selection. Why? In the group selection, the altruistic interaction is not well mixed. The whole population only happens within the group. In my sentence, in my talk, the group defined by the family. Of course, the indirect fitness effect takes place because the full SIB interact. Why not really group selection this situation? There are 2 points. In the population genetics, the family phenotypic composition is determined by Mendelian genetics, not free. And that is at now we not consider the case when there is fight between the families. What is unusual in my model? If you familiar with the population genetics, in the population genetics mainly follows the alleles, the gene frequency change during the evolution, during the time. But now we follow the genotype distribution. What is the sexual reproduction? All sexual reproduction, there are 2 life cycles: a haploid state, the gametes, and the diploid state. In human, we are diploid. Only or gamete haploid. In my species, the haploid stage is very short. It's not so important from the selection point of view. Now we're looking for the change in genotypes. This was my idea, because I cannot follow in my selection situation what's happening in the gene, in the allele frequencies. Let's see formally. We have M genotypes. The mating system, of course, is very important because the father and mother genotypes determine the group composition, mainly the family phenotypic composition. So usually we follow the standard assumption of the population genetics. We will consider panmixia, the random mating of genotypes, and that is the definition of this is the definition of the panmixia. When the IJ genotypes form a mating pair according to the multiplying its relative frequency. Of course, the sex ratio is half-half, and we have autosomal allele. This means there are no difference between male and female. In this case, the survival rate of each offspring depends on the genotype of the parents. Why? because the parent genotypes determined the offspring genotypes. The genotypes, according to the Mendelian inheritance, determine the phenotypes of the whole sibling and also the phenotypic composition in the family. And if the sibling play a games, according to the game, we have a fitness or survival or the other, and also is very important this notion, the NKIJ, because this denote the average number or surviving offspring with K genotypes from mating pair of genotypes I and J. The main point, we follow the genotype distribution, not the gametes, not the allele distribution. So after that, we are very easy situation because what we would like to describe the change of the genotype distribution from generation to generation. We have no fitness, we have production. Why not we have no fitness? Because the fitness notion is based on the E type from the E type. But in the Mendelian genetics, for example, in the two different homozygote parents, there is no same genotypes offerings. So they have different offspring. So N per 2 multiplied per age ij, this is the number of the family with parents has genotypes AIG. And the NKIG is, the survival. This is the production. But now the population, the whole population product each genotypes, not only the genotype, when the parent genotypes, at least one parent genotype is K. This is the reason why we have production and not fitness. After that, very easy to introduce the genotype dynamics. It's very similar like replicator dynamics. What is the difference? From VI, we cannot fracting out the XI. Why? Because the I type from the only from the I type is not valid in the level of the genotypes. After that, we following the classical matrix game theory. We can define the genotype, the evolution is stable genotype distribution, and we also prove the local asymptotic stability of the evolution stable genotype distribution according to the genotype dynamics. Why I mentioned these theorems? If you see, this is very, very similar, like I already know the Folk theorem of the population, the game dynamics, the replicator dynamics. But not only the definition and the statement similar, the reasoning, the proof behind this statement, absolutely same. What does it mean? If for me, what does it mean for me? If I'm only concentrate on the genotypes, not the alleles, after that, we are arrive again the orthodox Darwinian view. What is the difference? Now we have no phenotypes, we have genotypes. Now let's see the first application. Everybody like prisoner dilemma. Okay, we will investigate it. What's happen if the full SIB play prisoner dilemma? Okay. We have a Mendelian population. I mentioned some details about that. And we assume a panmixed monogamous population with enough large enough size. The genetic relateness between full sibling is half. Why? Because monogamous, so my sib has exactly same my parent's gene half probability. This is nowadays. This is the definition of genetic relateness. Now let's see the prisoner dilemma. We have to make a classification in the prisoner dilemma, and this classification is strictly based on the idea of the group selection, welfare of the family. What is it? We consider survival game, only survival game. All of my application is considered survival game. So the collaborating case when both siblings will cooperate in order to maximize their additive survival rate. The alternative case, which is not true, one cooperate, the other defect. If somebody familiar with the prisoner dilemma, the alternative case is usually also the definition of the iterated personal dilemma. But now, for the simplicity, we consider only one game between the siblings, so no repetition. So we would like to emphasize. So formally, this condition, the alternative case condition, define the iterated prisoner dilemma. This is a condition of iterated dilemma. Make a distinguish between. We use this word because we have a one-shot game between siblings. And I would like to emphasize here, these two is not there is no any connection with the degree of relatedness. Here, the two is the number of the players. Okay. Now let's see. This is now we arrive when we formulate the mathematically very precise question. What is the selection situation? We have genotypes. The genotypes form family. This is the number of the family which has the same offspring set. Why? Because you know by the symmetry of the Mendelian inheritance is not important. The homozygotes is a father or a mother. Can be changed, the parents' genotypes, the family composition does not change. After that, the P is the Mendelian law. Which family, what kind of offspring genotypes will burn? This is a probability, the P. And after that, this is a NKIJ. This is average number or survived sibling with K phenotype in the family IJ. And SI is a phenotype which is determined by the genotype-phenotype mapping. And if we have a matrix game, a survival game, by a matrix game. In this case, for example, here is I see is is a recessive inheritance. So we can calculate from the mathematical model the the average number of survived sibling with K or I types, genotypes. After some calculation, and I would like to emphasize why the genotypes dynamic is very general. Because the NKI J parameter is depend from what you want. At this moment, we assume there is a survival game, a prisoner dilemma, and so on. What is our first result? If the the prisoner dilemma is a collaborating, when what does it mean? Both sibling by cooperation maximize the welfare of the family, maximize the sum of their survival rate. We find all possibilities. We have bistability case. For example, the matrix A is a bistable. But we have also when we have coexistence and is globally stable. And also the defector and the cooperator state also will be fixed according to natural selection. And what is the most interesting case is a 6, the P of matrix 6, in spite of the genetic relateness is half, and the cooperation maximize the welfare of the family. In spite of that, finally, the defector homozygotes will fixed. So is absolutely not the same like in the Hamilton rule by intuition from the viewpoint of the intuition. If we have alternating prisoner dilemma, after that the cooperator homozygote state never fixed. The coexistence also possible, and the defector homozygote can be fixed. After that, we are interested in the survival donation game. The donation game is the most simple prisoner dilemma, and in the asexual theory, lots of people said, okay, donation game is the absolutely best and the simplest model of the prisoner dilemma. So we would like to see what's happening in the donation game. Of course, the donation game has negative value entries. So in this case, it's not a survival, but we have changed a little bit. After that, we find independently the genotype-phenotype mapping. The classical Hamilton rules always imply the stability of cooperator homozygotes. So I was a little bit surprised this result, because what does it mean? In the prisoner dilemma game in general has three degree of freedom. You can choose at least three parameters, three entries of the matrix independently. But if you have only two, the prisoner dilemma only have two freedom. After that, it radically change everything. So the dimension is crucial from the point of view or in the familiar selection situation when the sibling play a game. So what we find? In the diploid population, payoff matrix and genotype-phenotype mapping together determine the endpoint evolution. This is nothing new. So a little bit new because we speak about payoff matrix, but the selection situation and genotype-phenotype mapping together determine the endpoint of the evolution is well known in the population genetics. And is also important, neither the kin selection nor the group selection theory has parallel or similar result. Hamilton rule is not harmony with our result when the prisoner dilemma has three degree of freedom. Okay. Let's second one. Now, after that, we also interested in we also interested in the one-person game when there is a altruistic help between the self-sacrificing altruistic help between the siblings. But now we change a little bit the story because we have a group, a family, and if a family has, for example, 4 or 5 SIB, after that the group selection models also will be applied here. What does it mean, the group selection? Group selection like the synergetic effect when the number of the altruistic or cooperator individual in the group non-linearly increase the benefit in the group. This is the synergetic effect. We start out one model which is written by Howard and Novak. Not absolutely similar, of course, but this function was used by us, by they, and also us. Also that when W is 1, after that we go back the linear model. This is the good reason why we pick up this function. Now the survival rate, P is defined in this way. P is a basic survival, B is a benefit, and F function give the group effect, how many altruistic sibling there is in the family. The cost is linear. But we not only do this, we also interested in the different type of mating system. The monogamy, everybody know what does it mean. Total promiscuity in this model means all female has each offspring of her different father. So in this case, the family, the sibling, has only half sibling because the father is always different. And we also interested in the polygamy without promiscuity. This is a case of the Islamic culture, 1 man and 4 women, and the woman made only his hand. And we interested in the linear model and the non-linear model. Interestingly, in the linear model is absolutely fit the Hamilton rule. But of course, in non-linear model, not. What is the main difference between them? This is a reason why it shows you this huge long formula. in this case, the question is not what is the average genetic relateness between the family, as in the linear situation. Why? Because the condition contains two parts. The red one is a full SIB, and the blue one is a half SIB. So there is no way to follow the basic idea of the Hamilton rule when the R is always defined as an average relateness between the actors. Yes. And we also see the linear one-person game in monogamous population is the same story what we usually consider in the kin selection. And independently, the homozygote, altruistic, recessive, and so on, always the Hamilton rule imply the evolutionary stability of the altruistic homozygote. We go back, Holden was a very clever guy, not only introduced the familiar, he was, everybody know, one of the father of the population genetics, with Ronald Fisher and Wright. And we a little bit rewording his famous sentence, and we introduce the Holden arithmetics, but is only rewording the Holden's idea. The relative frequency of the altruistic gene increases if by self-sacrificing it has reduced on average more than one copy of itself on its lineage. Each lineage. This each lineage is not there is in the Hamilton rule. What we find, Holden arithmetic is equivalent in the definition of evolutionary stable genotype distribution. Independently, the selection situation is linear or non-linear. The mating system has effect on the evolutionary stability of sibling. Altruism is also true. And in a linear model, Hamilton roots is beautiful, holds and true, but does not in the non-linear model. After that, we have this result. After that, we interested in the following. Okay, we have linear specification. What does it mean, linearity? Or function is additive or homogeneous. Let's see what's happened if our selection situation is additive but not homogeneous. It's very well known the situation of the sharing of food, for example, in between different animals. And during starvation is important to get some extra food. And why not this situation is homogeneous? Because if there are k altruistic SIB, then this altruistic SIB together together give a given amount of the food to his sibling. In this case, they share the cost. Okay. And after that, we again use the definition or dynamics what we find. this inequality is very, 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 very similar like Hamilton rule, but there is a big difference because in the brackets you will usually correspond to the two. But now this factor is depend on the phenotype genotype distribution and also the number of the family size, the n. So, for example, if we have a family, we have only two offspring. In this case, we go back the Hamilton rule. If we have three, in this case, the Hamilton rule does not true. If we have four, the condition is more strict. For example, when the altruism is recessive, and when the altruism is additive, in this case, we have different condition, but this is not, is only we calculate this condition in different selection situation. And of course, we can use, because the evolutionary stability is a local condition, because evolutionary stability means if the resident population is at this stage, after that, the rare mutant cannot invade. It's a local condition. But if we have, because we have global dynamics, we can looking for not only local, but some global behavior of the selection situation. For instance, in this case, we have the altruistic behavior is recessive. After that is we find the following. If this condition true, after that, the altruistic homozygotes is globally stable. If B is less than 8C and bigger than the 2C, after that we have a mixed situation, an interior equilibrium. And if the B is less than 2C, because if you see this is the case, is absolutely correspond the case when the Hamilton rule is not true. In this case, the altruistic behavior fixed. What does it mean? In this case, the Hamilton rule imply the existence of the altruism. Not the stability, the existence. We find this when the altruistic behavior is recessive. After that, we of course see the same situation when the altruistic behavior is dominant, because we are well known the genotypes, phenotypes correspondence has a hard effect of the evolutionary stability. Why? What is the most important? We also have all possibilities, but I would like to emphasize the figure 2C against. If the Hamilton rule does not satisfy, after that, the selfish homozygotes will be globally stable. Again, the Hamilton rule independently, the altruistic behavior is either dominant or recessive. In both cases, guarantee the existence of the altruism, but does not the evolutionary or global stability of the altruism. Summary. So if we looking for some condition in the framework of population genetics, and we concentrate on the genotype change from generation to generation. After that, we finally arrive the following. if the interaction, if the selection situation is linear, what is possible? In one-person game, altruistic situation, Hamilton rule is fine. In donation game, Hamilton rule is fine. If we have a general prisoner dilemma, when we have three parameters in the payoff matrix, the Hamilton rule does not work. And we also see investigated what's happened if the linearity is not valid. If the interaction is additive but not homogeneous, in this case, the Hamilton rule does not imply the stability of altruism, but imply the existence of the altruism. And if the interaction is nonlinear, we have shown the Holding arithmetic implies the stability of altruism. It does not mean we don't know the Holding arithmetics imply the global stability. We only know Holding arithmetic imply the evolutionary stability from the point of view of the dynamics is a local stability. Finally, he is my most important coworker. Tamás F. Móriás Zoltán Varga was my professor and when I learned in the university, and the younger guys also helped lots of in this work. And if somebody interested in the details, there are lots of long calculation and so on. So the mathematical details you can find this for publication. And thank you very much for your attention. Oh,
Very good. Are there?
oh, sorry, I cannot see your hand. Excuse me, because okay, if you have any question, I try to answer.
Yeah. Anybody have a question?
So
Alex?
then ask Alex.
All right. Yeah, thanks a lot for the talk. From what I understood, in your models, you had the size of the family was constant, right? So each family consisted of 4 members or 6 members.
Exactly. At this moment, yes.
So, of course, like this is not always the case, right? So,
Absolutely.
so
You are absolutely right.
So what do you think would happen? How would this change? I mean, because I see that like there's so much. I think the mathematics would like just explode if you try to do like I don't know how would you model this family size basically?
Oh, very, very easy. At this moment, we write a paper about this situation, but not the altruistic business, because in the NKAJ is absolutely general. Perhaps it depends on when the parents play a game, a well-mixed game, for example, in the population. And for example, play in my what we are working on is in this case the fertility of the family will be depend on Habdab game, and the female play a well-mixed game in the population, and it's easy to make because the genotypes dynamics is really general. More simple and more general because there is no any condition, only is positive, the NKIJ parameter. Come from what you want, but what is always depend on the selection situation.
I cannot see how it would become simpler by introducing more parameters, but I I have to take your word for it. But thanks.
Of course, the calculation.
Yeah, that's what I meant, right?
The
So how to get like
calculation,
clear-cut
you know,
results?
Sometimes the question is more easy. The calculation is.
Yeah, thanks.
Jonathan, did you have a question?
No, I was, yeah, trying to get my head around the generality of this and where it stops, right? I suppose you can model a whole bunch of situations in families with this, right? We don't have to stop at prisoner's dilemma at all, it would seem. So I mean, if not, tell me where, if I want to take this apparatus and use it on additional situations, so additional interfamilial situations that correspond to survival, where do we have to draw the line? Do you think? What else can we do? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I would like to. Okay. No. So, as a matter of fact, we have a remark in the archive paper, the last paper, when we have a remark what we can put into this model. And we think we can put, because in the evolution, what is the important? The survival rate and the fecundity. This is the most important two things. And the survival rate and the fecundity is why not depend other games, different games. We have put lots of different. For example, in the group selection, we have two different games. So we can from I'm a biologist. I'm always start out from the selection situation. So in general, for example, in the bird has a game for example, the kleptoparasitism game when you collect together some food and some stolen the food for the other is also a game. It's happened in the bird. After that, the chicken played the survival game in the nest. Perhaps they kill each other or help to each other. So this is always and as I see, we in my model is we can put all of this point, but of course not all. But I know at this moment in the survivor we can consider non-linear game, one-person game, and two-person matrix game. We have already done this. And now the next stop, what's happened if the fecundity of the parents depend the other type of game.
Okay, thank you.
And the main point is, because in this case we have two games, in this case the genotypes is more complicated. So the dimension of the genotypes dynamic is blew up. Really, because if you have two alleles, we have three genotypes. But when we have three alleles, after that we have two more. Not so it's blew up. It's a combinatorial problem.
Yeah.
After that is depend on the two alleles is located the same chromosome or independent chromosome. So there are lots of details, biological details in this model. But the main point, awful number of dimension immediately if you consider two different games, because in this case we have two different strategy. two-dimensional strategy, no?
Of course, yeah, it's going to.
Yes, the
it's going to get-
genotypes, what is my fecundity and what is my survival.
Thank you.
Can I ask
My pleasure.
a question?
Yes.
Yeah, so very impressive talk. Thank you so much. I learned a lot, and I will try to digest. One assumption here is the family size is constant. Imagine that the survival of the family depends on some aggregate of the fitness or payoffs in the family. So there's a shock. They can be conflict with other groups, or more simply, a natural shock. So if there's now and then it's a natural shock, and we look then at over a long time span, one would guess, right, that if that would promote more altruistic features. Is that right?
Yes, you are right.
Can one
And-
model that?
And as a matter of fact, I'm mainly interested in the game theory. So we also think about with my coworker, we would like to build into the population genetics the group selection situation.
Mhm.
What is it? When there is altruistic within family and there are fight between the family.
Right.
Because in this case, the two main way of the modeling of altruism will introduce the population genetics framework. And of course, the is also, but I think according the variance of the disturbance, I think is a hard question here. In my feeling, I never think about this, but I think the variance of the disturbance is so lots of work.
Thank you.
I also have actually a few questions. Maybe the first is about the simplices that you have. So there seem to always to be a sort of focal arc in this simplices. Where do I interpret it correctly that you have?
Which simplex? Sorry, share. Ah, well, I would like to share again. No. Yeah, gyere.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
If you go to some picture with where you have these simplices.
This one, good.
Yeah, so the green arc in here, should I associate that with what random mating implies?
Random mating is here because the average number of the different family is calculated for the random mating. What is a random mating? Multiplying of the different frequencies of the.
No, I think I understand it, but maybe I could be wrong, but I'm curious in if you have random mating, then that comes with that implies a distribution of that implies a genotype distribution, maybe, or so I mean it looks like in all of these dynamics, you first more or less converge towards the green line in your simplex, right? So do trajectories tend to go towards the green line in the simplex?
I can't understand your question. Sorry.
Okay. So if you go to the simplex,
Okay.
just any simplex. So like a simplex here, so there's a green line, and the blue lines are trajectories, right?
Oh yes. And your question is the green line is what right by default? This is a question.
Yeah. So the question is, what is it? How do I understand what the green line is? So if I start, for instance, like on the edge of the simplex, that I would think that must mean that that the current distribution is not what you would expect with random mating, or maybe I'm misunderstanding that.
Perhaps I understand your question. So, is go back to the question is the genetic equilibrium, no?
Yeah.
A green line, we also try to check is whether a right manifold. Right manifold is a manifold in the genotype place when the alleles are determine the genotype distribution according to the Hardy-Weinberg relation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
This is the equilibrium. This is the right manifold. But if you see this one, no. This you can see my
Yeah.
cross. This green line and that green line is different. So this is not a right manifold. But the green line is an attractor. The whole solution go to the green line. After that, everybody go with together to the by trajectory go to the this trajectory.
Okay.
That's it, the green line. As a matter of fact, it's really a nice question, but mathematically it's very hard. What is the connection between the genetic, the equilibrium, and genetic equilibrium, Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, and the green line? There must be exist, but I don't know what is the connection.
Okay, so it's more complicated. It's clearly.
It's really yes, because in this case, not only so the genetics is also work, the selection also work, and together work in the dynamics. So is
If I may,
yes.
just guess, very wild guess, not founded. I think of Lyapunov functions. It looks like a valley leading down to the lake, if you see what I mean. And the water is pouring down the valley sides and then follow the green stream to the lake, which is the end point. So if there is a Lyapunov function driving the system.
Or either is very, very close together, because as a matter of fact, we also introduced in the last paper, but is not accepted now, but is the archive. We also introduced the Haldane monotonity when the allele frequency is a Lyapunov function of the genotype dynamics. So we also think about your idea is absolutely similar, like we think about what 2 years ago when we also looking. So, but I think I have only one idea when I started this week. I must follow the genotype distribution. This was the main point. After that, everything okay. For define the question, it was easy. After that, the calculation is based on my mathematician colleagues and teacher.
Bon. Well, maybe one last question then. So in your overview of your results, you said that for the general prisoner's dilemma, that Hamilton's rule does not apply. Is that what drives that? Does the fact that you allow for recessive and dominant genes drive that, or is it because would you also get it if you don't have, and yeah. So you're so let that be the question. So would you
here So the matrix 6 is a prisoner dilemma, 3 freedom, and always, always. As a matter of fact, I cannot know. I don't know the intuitive reason. This is the fact, we find this.
No, I understand this, but on your final slides, you had as a result, like if in the one-player game, Hamilton's rule works. In the
Yes.
domination game, it works, and then as a third, you had it stops working if you have 3 degrees of freedom. And my question is that is that the result of the extra degree of freedom? And would you or does the fact that you allow for recessive and dominant genetics play a role there?
I think is a freedom because if you see this game is independently the which phenotype is dominant or recessive.
Well,
So there is no. It's always.
I understand, but the options that you give now is one is recessive and the other is dominant, or the other is dominant and the one is recessive. But there is also genes where if you are halfway, you just have half the effect, right? So then neither of them is recessive or dominant.
If the intermediate case is also. So I cannot see any other reason behind this, and I have no idea why, no intuitive idea, no biological intuition why this is the case here.
Okay.
But we find this, sometimes we, as one of my coworkers said, I don't know why, but we calculate. And after that, if my calculation is okay, this is the result. I was really surprised this result.
Okay.
So it was exactly one of my reviewer asked this, and when I read, okay, I think is not true, and I find this is true. I was really surprised. I was absolutely not accepted this result. No, but this is true.
Well, okay, so that leaves us at the end of today's talk. I thought it was very interesting, and in 2 weeks we meet again. So yeah.
Thank you very much for your invitation.
Well, thank you very, very much for being
Thank
here.
you very much.
Thank you
Thanks
very much.
Thank you. A
Thank
good
you.
talk.
Thanks so
Yeah.
much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
We keep saying goodbye.
Yeah. This is a long goodbye.
Nice. No, I like this better. This is better than this session is over. You say bye and then boom, the session explodes. I like this
Yeah.
better. Yeah. We slowly phase out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, good to see you
Okay,
again.
bye-bye.
Take care. Bye bye.